I won't pretend like this is a coincidence. I've had an absolutely delightful weekend of binge reading short, fun, medieval, historical novel sort of things. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. I've been having a beautifully relaxing, cozy winter weekend, and as part of that, I read two books. Catherine, called Birdy by Cushman, and Rules for a Night by Ethan Hawke. These are both short, I think you could say generally aimed at middle grade, but applicable to any age, books set in the Middle Ages. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the reviews. Catherine, called Birdy by Cushman is, as I said, a middle grade historical fiction. It's about a young teenage girl in 13th century England. Catherine, nicknamed Birdy, is the daughter of a knight who is trying to marry her off to the wealthiest suitor, and she is working hard to foil his plans. And it is told in the format of a diary over the span of a year. This was a staple of my younger reading life. I was a rereader even back as a kid, and this was on rotation. I loved this book. And then I guess I kind of grew out of it sometime around late middle school, early high school, and I hadn't thought about it for like 15 years. I saw that a movie came out in 2022 based on it, and I obviously wanted to reread it first since it had been so long since I actually read it and I didn't really remember that much, so I wanted to have a fresh memory of the book to compare the movie to. I picked up the ebook and I just wasn't getting around to it until yesterday when I really wanted to do my puzzle but also listen to this book. So I grabbed the audiobook and it was the perfect choice. It ended up being exactly the vibe I wanted. I binge read it in practically one sitting. I ended up listening to the version narrated by Mary Jane Wells, and she gave Birdy just the most delightful voice. I loved how this was narrated. It fit so well. That being said, there's a bit of an elephant in the room with this book that I need to address, and that is the cover. So, you have been looking at this beautiful cover, which is the one I remember from my childhood. It is gorgeous. It is part of what drew me to this book. Look at that fantastic period-specific headwear. When I went to get the ebook and then the audiobook, I find that they've rebranded to this, which, like, I don't want to be snarky. If it gets kids reading the book, then that's great. If this is what it needs to be to market to kids so that they're interested in it now, awesome. But like, that original cover was such a part of the vibe. Is this how romance readers feel about the cartoon covers? I feel like it is. I was never attached to the old school romance novel covers and actually quite like the style of a lot of the cartoon ones, but I think I feel your pain seeing this adapted because, like, what? And I have to say, in general, rereading this as an adult, I have to laugh because it is hilarious how me this is and how much my interests haven't changed at all since I was like 8 years old or whenever I probably first read this book. All of the things that I still obsess over in good historical fiction, or good in my books, historical fiction, and the nonfiction history books that I like to read. Like the interest in the day-to-day details of life in the past and what people wore and what people ate and how medicine worked and just what tasks people were doing and what life was like. That is what this book is. That is what this book is about, and it is beautiful. It is so well done. The story, the prose, all of it. I loved it just as much as an adult as I did as a kid. This was fantastic. And I'd forgotten how dark some of the things that happen in this book are, and how touch and go and how adult some of the things are, but also the types of things that it is, that totally tracks for what I was interested in as a kid. So again, it still makes sense with what I'm interested in now. This was wonderful. What a great book to rediscover. There's another one by Cushman called Matilda Bones that I also really remember loving as a kid. So I think I might read that, or actually I think probably listen to that as well. I think that would be really fun to go back to that. And then I also want to see what other books she has, because I feel like she probably has others that I maybe just didn't read as a kid, or that I've forgotten that I read as a kid. So maybe this is the start of my journey into middle grade. I've not really been a middle grade or YA reader since I aged out of that myself, but maybe this is the time when I start to venture back in. And as I said, my second book that I'm going to talk about is Rules for a Night by Ethan Hawke. This was a total impulse buy. Shout out to the Curious Cat Tea and Books in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. It was a fantastic little bookstore and I really loved the selection. This is framed as a knight writing a letter to his children on the eve of battle, with sort of all of the life lessons he wants to impart to them, thinking he might die the next day. I thought the concept sounded really cool, but in my books, the execution was lackluster. It felt like a largely decent, if pretty milquetoast guide to life, although every now and then the advice I'd be like, really? Ooh, that's the path? Okay, I mean, sure. But it was basically just generic, boring life advice in a Halloween costume medieval setting. If you're gonna go to the trouble of framing this as like, I've interpreted and translated a letter found in my attic from my distant ancestor in the 15th century, like, do some research, make it good, actually make that a meaningful part of your book instead of, yeah, it felt like it was wearing a Halloween costume, not actually set in the century it said it was in. And I think it was especially noticeable because I had just read Catherine called Birdy, which is so beautifully and epically grounded in its time period. And then to go to this, where within the first few pages I was going, really? Okay, I guess I could stretch to explain that anachronism, but no, it's just that you haven't really tried to actually properly set it in the past at all, beyond wanting there to be swords and shields and battles, and this just wasn't what I was looking for. I hate when I don't enjoy cute physical books because it's so much harder to get rid of them, but also they annoy me so much when I see them because I'm like, oh, you're so cute. You should have been so good, but you weren't. So that's unfortunate, but you can't just do cover buys and buy books randomly and expect them to be always perfect. So you win some, you lose some. This, unfortunately, was a loss. Thankfully, it was really short and sweet, and I read it, well, not so sweet, but you know what I mean. And I read it in basically one sitting, so I didn't DNF it, but if it had been a longer book, I definitely would have. Unfortunately, not a hit. Let me know down in the comments, what do you do with books like that when you really like the aesthetic of them, but they didn't live up to your expectations? Do you keep them? Do you get rid of them? What do you think I should do with this? Rosie from slightly later in the day popping in to say that Bear and I just watched the Catherine Called Birdy movie. It was directed by Lennon Dunham, who I have, I'll be honest, generally an unfavorable but not founded on any real observations opinion of. But it was starring Bella Ramsey with Billie Piper and Andrew Scott, so how can you go wrong? And we found it really fun. The costumes were a real artistic historical choice, a la Marie Antoinette or Emma, and I love that style of costuming. I thought it was really fun. And clearly well done, because Bear, watching it with no context whatsoever, was like, I think this might be 13th century, and he was spot on. So clearly they're getting something right. I will say I was giving it so much kudos for a historical reference of menstruation scene that I was like, yes, this is incredible, what we need to see in the world, until it included the most ridiculous and anachronistic granny panties that I have ever seen. And I just could not stop laughing for way too long after that. So slight points off for that. But overall, the main costumes, the ones we actually see all the time, were not historically accurate, but historically artistic in the way that was perfect for this movie and this style. It also had a very fun, modern pop music soundtrack, which, once again, is something I enjoy in this type of movie. It was very much in the vein of movies like Emma, the most recent adaptation, you know the one I mean, with that sort of vibe, and If you like that, I think you'll like this. I certainly did. The dialogue was really punchy, it was comedic. I thought it kept with the style of the book, which I had just listened to yesterday / this morning, was very fresh in my memory, and I thought it did a pretty good interpretation. They did alter the plot a fair bit, which is understandable because when you're taking something from a book to a movie, there's sort of a different pacing, a different progression of events that's possible. And I honestly preferred the book plot. I thought it was better. I preferred that. It works. I guess you can't cast Andrew Scott in the role of the father and then not give him more of a storyline than he gets in the book. I preferred the book plot, but it was still a really fun movie. The cast was great. The performances were great. The visuals were great. It was a really beautiful movie. The costumes were fun. The characterization was really cool and well done. Really fun, even if the book was better. Let me know down below in the comments. Have you read any of these books? Did you watch Catherine Called Birdy? I don't actually know what I thought of the movie yet because I'm filming this outro before I've watched it. Whatever my review was, I hope it was interesting. Let me know if you agree or not. Let's chat about it all in the comments. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button down below. If you would like to see more of my videos, make sure you hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.